At the moment there are 9,000 Russian troops of questionable quality heading to Belarus, and they must be thinking, what the hell now? The answer to that is simple. Your leader Putin has gotten stuck on the million-dollar question of how to defeat Ukraine. He has one lifeline left, so he has decided to phone a friend, and that friend is Belarusian leader Alexander Lukashenko. On October 10, Lukashenko, the other potato in the area, announced that he and Putin had decided to deploy a regional group of forces comprising troops from both their countries in Belarus. Lukashenko called the deployment a response to NATO provocations on the border, the formation of sabotage units staffed by Belarusian émigrés, and Ukrainian plans to attack Belarus. Poor old Putin must have had to scrape the barrel to get this force going, especially as he seemingly cannot reinforce his armies in theater properly. Those troops and MiG-31 jets started to arrive on October 15. The State Duma Defense Committee chairman, Andrei Kartapolov, indicated only that the unit would not fight in Ukraine, adding that troops were being deployed to Belarus to allay Lukashenko's concerns, which of course makes him sound like a scared little bunny. The Belarusian Defense Ministry has said that the Russians will bring with them 170 tanks and 200 infantry fighting vehicles, which we find highly interesting given that they are struggling to get vehicles into theater. So, these will undoubtedly be of the lowest possible standard, like T-62s or 55s and BTR-60s. Don't be surprised if they roll T-34s straight off the museum plinths, all to make their neighbor autocrat feel safe. So why are they there? Well, the official reason is bullshit, as you would expect. I believe that they will make a small incursion into northern Ukraine in an effort to draw forces from the counteroffensive in the south. The numbers aren't enough for a proper escalation, and Lukashenko wouldn't dare commit his troops into Ukraine, as he really is the Mussolini to Putin's Hitler, and as such will probably end up hanging by his ankles at some point. Or would he? Information filtering in from the ground has suggested that Lukashenko is going to give an important announcement soon, and like all dictators he has been bringing in riot police to help contain his jubilant citizens. The consensus has always been until now that he wouldn't dare get involved in the invasion for fear that it would end him. As his opposition in exile, Sviatlana Tsikhanouskaya, put it, just imagine the situation if he made this order. The Belarusian army went across the border, and they defect, they change sides, they hide, because they don't want to fight the Ukrainians. Just imagine his reputation in front of Putin, in front of the Kremlin. It would be an epic fail. As if out of a World War II movie, the regime in Belarus is currently under huge pressure from local partisans, who have been conducting acts of sabotage, with dozens of reports citing destroyed and damaged railway links connecting Russia to Ukraine through Belarus. This is by no means a fully organized resistance, but is still encouraging to see. Details from the opposition in exile speaks of dissent within the Belarusian military and vast number of citizens, up to 30,000, that are reporting on Russian troop movements. So, if Lukashenko decided to yield to Putin's autocratic peer pressure, what could he bring to the fight? If we assume that the army doesn't desert en masse when faced with a determined and experienced Ukrainian army hell-bent on revenge. The Belarusian military currently has 50,000 soldiers and officers, with an additional 15,000 people listed as military personnel. The military reserve capable of being called up in case of mobilization is 290,000 people, according to the 2021 Military Balance Report. Based purely on morale and the desire to fight for him, I am not sure these will be accurate. The army is the largest structure in the military, but only a fraction of its personnel is immediately available. According to a report by the Russian Center of Analysis of Strategy and Technology, only 10 to 15,000 troops serve in the Belarusian ground forces day-to-day in peacetime. The rest have to be called upon request. Belarusian military expert Yara Lebiadok suggests that without mobilization the country could only immediately send up to 6,000 soldiers. This probably explains why Putin has had to send a combat force to Belarus, because if Ukraine got angry, they could occupy Belarus in a fortnight and they would most likely be greeted as liberators. The only branch of the army with any quality are the special forces. They employ 3 brigades of elite infantry with a total of 300 to 600 soldiers. 2 brigades were part of the brutal suppression of the 2020 protests that were triggered by presidential elections deemed neither free nor fair by the international community. While the Belarusian army has no battleground experience, the Special Operations Forces have participated in peacekeeping missions in Lebanon, worked with the OSCE mission in Donbass, and taken part in suppressing riots in Kazakhstan in January 2022. These troops report directly to the General Staff of Belarus Armed Forces, and present a well-trained small army within a larger Soviet-style force. According to reports from 2020, Belarus might have 1,200 tanks with 800 of them in reserve. But that is highly questionable and hasn't been helped by Lukashenko gleefully sending his T-72Bs to Putin as reinforcements. If the Russians haven't looked after their own reserves, then Belarus definitely hasn't. In conclusion, Lukashenko may be planning to assist with the invasion by placing boots on the ground, but there are significant risks to his rule, with opinion polls by Chatham House showing that only 3 to 6% of Belarusians support the deployment of Belarusian troops to Ukraine. The citizens of this country are not afraid to protest and to show their true feelings, and he may be afraid to go down that path. The most likely scenario is that Putin is trying to strengthen those very few local supporters that he has. He needs Lukashenko in power, he needs his hospitals, stores of tanks and his airports. A change in government here would be a hammer blow to the war effort and therefore Putin's survival. Dark Histories believes that the Russians are moving in to prop up their puppet and to keep him singing their tune, in the same way Hitler created the National Republican State of Italy for Mussolini. The threat of potential invasion is just a bonus for Putin, as it may reduce the pressure on his armies in the south. Either way, the troops in Belarus will play a critical role for Putin in this war, just not necessarily by marching into the Ukraine. Thank you for watching. Please drop a like and leave your comment. We value your input. What role will Poland take in regional developments? Here is a clue. Enjoy.
And I will rain down an ungodly fucking firestorm upon you. You're gonna have to call the fucking United Nations and get a fucking binding resolution to keep me from fucking destroying you. I am talking scorched earth, motherfucker. I will massacre you. I will fuck you up!